So, how a pension can change everything about your retirement. This is kind of a big deal. Pensions are not near as popular as they were, 30, 40, 50 years ago. Right now, primarily, only older Americans have it. Unless you've been in automotive or some of the bigger unions are obviously the teacher unions and the public service unions with the police and the fire departments and road workers. UAW, Teamsters, etc. And some of those, it's just the union workers is a lower amount of people. It's not as many as it used to be. Even the place that I work, when I first got hired almost 30 years ago, we had 1,500 folks just in our town in the union. And now we're down to under 400 in the last 29 and a half years. It just, in general, things have gone differently, right? So, and a lot of union jobs and pension related jobs are gone. Our office personnel where I work also had office pensions, and most of those have been bought out by the company because they don't want to be in the pension business. Pensions, that's one of the biggest reasons pensions aren't popular anymore is because companies don't want to have to manage them. That means they have to manage the funds and make sure they're always there. They have to make sure they can fund it well enough. They have to make sure that the money has a return on it that keeps everybody paid. The other reason they're not as popular is because people want to choose their own path. They want to choose their own destiny with their money. 401ks have changed all that. And for me personally, at this juncture in my life, I would love to have a 401k instead of a pension, only because I'm currently separated from my wife. She's living in Florida. I'm living up here in Illinois. And if it wasn't for the pension, I could have retired from this job when she moved down, and we could have all gone together. The timing didn't work out at the time. That there was a reason we did what we did. But obviously, I had to stick around because our pension pays out the best and maximized benefits at 30 years. And I had, when she moved, 29 or 28 and a half. Now I'm at 29 and a half, almost 30. And the next goal post for me is we have a contract change that happens on June 1st, and I should have 30 pension credits by then, and that's when I plan to retire. But for the most part, unless you're in a big public service job, pensions are not as popular as they used to be. Now, and based on that, the numbers work out to be approximately 9.4 million people have private sector type pensions, and that would include all the auto workers and the Teamsters and the rail workers and all those folks. And then you have the public sector, which would be people that work on roads, teachers unions, police departments, fire unions, and obviously the government has huge pension setups. They have the best ones in the world. Not only do they get a huge pension for your sitting congressmen and senators, they get, even if they only do one term, they get their pension and health care and et cetera for life for doing 2 or 6 years of service. Now, I'm not saying that they don't deserve something, but good grief. That's part of the reason that government's so expensive, because we're paying out these kind of benefits. Now, our armed personnel and all those folks that are actually putting in full 30 and 40-year careers in any of the public sector jobs that are part of government, they deserve a full pension, by all means. But was talking specifically if they were just doing a one term as a senator or representative. That's only 2 years or 6 years, and that's kind of ridiculous that they get the crazy benefits that they get for life. Okay, we're not the president. I can understand, but anyway. And a lot of times right now, what people like about not having a pension is you do have the portability. And having a pension means you don't have any control over when you can go and how you go and why you go, because you have to fall within the terms of the pension program. So ours, we have a 30 and out. Basically, is once you get 30 years, you're free to take your pension and go. And we also have a rule of 85 points, which is years of service plus your age. And if you hit 85 points, then you qualify for a partial pension. And then we also have 60-10, whereas if you're 60 years old and have at least 10 years of service, you qualify for a partial pension. But the best pension benefit comes at 30 years. So it's we kind of look at it as they're golden handcuffs, right? It's a great pension and everybody wants to have it, but that just means you have to stay until you hit the numbers to qualify. For me, it kind of sucks, but it's personal. That's on a personal basis. The upside is that when you have a pension, you get to use your pension instead of tapping into your 401k and your investments, because you're getting a certain amount for your pension, and that may lower the amount you need to take for withdrawals from your other systems, which is great because that makes your 401k money, for example, last longer, and it gives it a chance to continue to grow, even if you're not putting money in it, because the money still collects interest based on the investments, etc. Our program at work, everybody that does not qualify for pensions, because they've taken them out of our contract. So anybody that was hired after 2021 no longer will get a pension from our company. They will, however, they get a bigger match in the 401k, and that's how they offset the difference between the pension getters and those that didn't qualify. Personally, I would have been fine getting the higher match even years ago, because most people do at least the company match. But obviously the public sectors have the best setup. But I'm just going to quickly run through my numbers just to give you an idea what it looks like with my pension. And everybody's pensions are different, and so these are my numbers. We get a supplement with our pension if we are not 65 when we retire. So if I have 30 years, which I will have, let's just say next June, I'll have 30 years of service. I can retire. I'll be 60, and I can retire at that point with my pension plus a supplement. The supplement, when you add those together, works out to be $4,600 a month. Okay. Now, I've mentioned this before in other videos. For me, that's a far cry from what I make. But mostly because of a lot of the overtime that we work. And anybody that's worked in this kind of a blue collar job, you know that most jobs like this, there's just a lot of overtime that's built into the plan. Some places it's expected. Some places it's mandatory. Ours is not mandatory. So I work it because it pays, and that's how we have a better life, right? And that's how you save better and all those things. But anyway, that $4,600 a month I can collect until I'm 65. At 65, that number drops down to what I call my forever pension, which is my years of service times our multiplier. Okay, and I get that pension for as long as I'm alive, and that number for me is $2,430. So starting at 65 in the month of my birthday, it will drop off to that number, and I will gain that I'll have that for the rest of my life. And so effectively, with the supplement, I will be able to collect the supplement pension for approximately 51 months. And then from that point on, I will go to the 2430, and that will last until forever. Now, we also have, and I can take spousal benefit, and it costs a couple $100 a month to give a spousal benefit. So in theory, it'll be $2,200 a month, let's just say. But that then allows my wife to collect 60% of that pension number, my number, until she dies. So it has the potential to be a large number even for her. And based on the fact that even though she's a teacher, she's not in a union that has a great pension. So she's, and prior to that, she taught here in Illinois, and they did not have any kind of a pension or any kind of a 401k program. So she doesn't have a lot put away for retirement. What's great is that I do with my 401k, because I have both a pension and a 401k. And my 401k is not large like I'd like. Everybody wants to have a bigger 401k. But because I won't have to use that money in theory, for at least until 65, that money then can sit there and just continue to collect interest based on the investments I have set up. And because my wife will also be working. I also plan to probably take at least a part-time job once I move to Florida, because I'm only going to be 60. I don't want to, sit on my butt from 60 on. So I'll find something. So all those things kind of added up and combined gives us a pretty good income coming in that should keep us from having to use any of my 401k. Now, I can, of course, also start collecting my Social Security at 62 if I choose to. I will probably wait, even though I've talked about this before on my channel, that it makes sense to take it at 62 based on the fact that it's going to be depreciating later and dropping down some of the coverage. But I probably am going to wait till 65. I'm going to write out but just my pension and whatever part-time money I may make until 65. And then when my supplement drops off of my pension program and I go to just my forever program, that's when I may kick in my Social Security. And then those two combined should, along with my wife working, should also allow us to not have to tap into our 401k unless an emergency happens or something severe. So that's how a pension can definitely change and affect your retirement, because it gives us a pretty good secure feeling knowing that we have a guaranteed income, unless of course my company, which is a huge company, that's goes bankrupt or something stupid happens. There's always what ifs, right? Nothing is guaranteed. However, they've been paying out pensions and programs, and this company's been in business for over 100 years. It's a very large defense contractor. That's not something we're gonna have to worry about. So we know that money's going to be coming in, and as long as we both can stay gainfully employed if we choose, we'll have a decent income without ever having to touch the 401k, which is, like I said, that's the best benefit of having a pension, is because you have money coming without having to hit those investments. And the longer those investments last, the better your retirement is in general. And as long as, for instance, my wife can cover me on insurance for the next 4 or 5 years until I hit 65, I can stay off of Medicaid and Medicare. And of course, even though she's paying a premium to have me on her insurance, I'm covered, and we don't have to use any of my pension money to help cover insurance costs. So anyway, that's where I stand. I wanted to kind of give you an idea what it looks like. A lot of the unions and a lot of the pensions that pay out offer a system where you can take partial payments in lump, or you can take the whole thing in a lump sum. Our pension plan does not allow for that. So we have to take the monthly installments. There's nothing we can do about it, unfortunately. There was a talk in a time where they talked about buying our pensions out the same way they did the office folks. That has not come to pass yet. May be something they do in the future. Where it stands right now, we have like 100 people or so that can retire in the next couple of years and still under our current contract. They may decide to get rid of that contract, get rid of the pensions at the end of this contract, since they've already eliminated pensions for new hires. That remains to be seen. I don't know how they would work a buyout if they did it, but that would be something that could possibly happen. Anyway, that's all I got for today. Save your money. Be prepared for retirement by planning better and having more money put away. That's the best thing and best advice anybody can give you. And I appreciate your time, and thanks for listening. See you next time.